Awesome, mate. So yeah, we're ready
There
for
we
it. Glad to
go.
have you.
Unmute. Thanks so much for that introduction.
No, no worries. I'm really grateful. You have absolutely. I looked around Australia for LinkedIn. You are the man that's leading it and doing extraordinary with teaching this stuff. I don't know anyone else that even does close to what you do. So, thanks for being here.
No, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Uh,
So yeah,
I'm
guys, all
getting a
ready,
little.
all ears. I'll leave them with you in your hands for an hour, and there might be random music come up here and there to keep the energy high if you hear that. Um, yeah, we're all ready, and
Marshall.
yeah, let you take it
Yeah,
away.
no worries. Okay, I I've got this weird echo, so I might just take my headphones off, and then if anyone else wants to jump on, just put your hand up, and if we're going to converse, I can put my headphones back on. So the echo is just going to distract me otherwise. It's awesome to be here. I've always seen Luke posting on Facebook about what he's doing, and it's awesome to be involved in one of the events and see what you guys are doing firsthand. As Luke's given me a bit of a brief on what you guys do and your experience on LinkedIn and what your objectives might be. As I understand it, the majority of you are in a business to consumer type role, where you're coaching individuals, not necessarily on business, but on their personal life and things of that nature, health, all those other areas. So it's a little bit different to some of the clients I work with in that LinkedIn is exceptionally good for business to business, because you can find key decision makers within particular organizations using the search criteria. And normally you find people that are in your sphere of influence. So like if you've got 100 connections, the people that you're generally going to see are the people that are connected to them, right? And so it's like a powerful referral tool. I'm just going to share my screen with you, and we're going to go through some of my background, if you think that might be helpful to give you a bit of context. By the way, before I just take you guys off the screen and put my slides up, has anyone heard me speak before? Just raise one of your hands if you've been to one of my events. Oh, freshies, cool. This is awesome. All right, so look at yourselves. Can you guys see that all right? Just give me a thumbs up. Perfect, thank you. All right, so you've already had my background from Luke, and as we go through this, guys, if you hear a dog growling, it's Marshall, who's a 1-year-old puppy who's at my feet, and he would be crying if I locked him outside the office, so we have to put up with the occasional bark. These are some of the clients I've worked with, just to give you some idea of some of the scope of some of the businesses. They're not all B2B, a lot of B2C clients, all sorts of different businesses. I think with marketing, like a lot of people ask me, why do you like LinkedIn, are you biased towards one platform? And to be honest with you, it's all about strategy. It depends on what your objective is. And for you guys, just because you're in B2C doesn't mean that LinkedIn can't work for you. You'd just be using it probably for different kinds of strategies and necessarily going direct to the customer. And we're going to go through some of that stuff very shortly. I won Best Use of LinkedIn in 2019 and 2020. The way that these awards are set up is they're based on campaigns, individual campaigns. So interesting to note that the 2019 one was a campaign called LinkedIn Heroes, where I was interviewing entrepreneurs that are making an impact on LinkedIn, adding value with some content. What I found was, because a lot of people are doing these web series on YouTube and Instagram and Facebook, the LinkedIn thing was quite novel. So I was able to get some high profile guests. And 2020 was for a series on LinkedIn Live. I go live every Monday night at 6 p.m. LinkedIn Live is a massive opportunity at the moment. One of the things that I think is important to note about LinkedIn, other than the fact that it's obviously a business site, is that it kind of lags the other ones. So like what happens on Facebook kind of takes 3 years for it to happen on LinkedIn. So as soon as we see that Live is coming out on LinkedIn, we kind of know it's going to be a big deal because it was on Facebook. So it's quite easy to predict what's going to be effective. I'm going to skip through some of this stuff because Luke did such an amazing job of introducing me. And you guys know a lot about I think, social media. But the way I look at it is it's a way for us to engage with potential customers at scale. And business professionals are on there. I think, you know, one of the great opportunities you guys might have is if one of your clients happens to be a professional. I know that's not necessarily why they come to you, but say one of them happens to be the director of a certain company, and he's on LinkedIn and he's quite active on there. You know, you've got visibility over his potential referral network. And I think for you guys, educating your network through content is going to be a powerful way for you to bring in leads and get likability and trust. I'm going to show you like what the organic reach is like on LinkedIn very shortly. I believe most marketers fail because they're selfish and impatient. They want results tomorrow, so they're always looking for the quick hack. And I find that if it's not working a lot of the time with the content, it's because they haven't taken the time to work out how to add value to the audience and are more focused on what they want to get out of it. These are the two reasons that I think are the biggest that people fail on social media. I think, you know, it's about building a relationship with someone. So there's a lot of businesses that I've come across that have, you know, potential clients, and they're not successful at building relationships offline. And so it's more or less not going to work trying to transition online. It's actually harder to do it online, but you can do it at scale. Just some updated statistics, guys. 722 million members on LinkedIn. There's more men than women. 60% are actually between 25 and 35. 3 people join every second. So these are the important trends. So engagement on LinkedIn over the last 3 years has gone up by at least 55% every single year. So the amount of conversations are increasing. And another statistic is people are spending 3 times as much time on the platform every day. So, you know, yes, it's growing at so many 2 members per second, but if those members are all spending 3 times as much time on there, then, you know, those members are a lot more valuable. Whereas like on Facebook, we're seeing session time decrease. So it's the trend is definitely upward, which is great. It's a lot to do with the organic reach and being able to serve users better content. So I have to talk, and I know I'm going quite quick because we've only got an hour, but Luke said jam as much stuff about LinkedIn as you can into the hour. So I think you're going to get a lot of value out of this. If you're going too fast, just let me know in the chat. Profile. So your LinkedIn profile is going to make or break every single thing you do on LinkedIn, whether it's lead generation, content marketing, or whether you're doing advertising, or if someone's just Googling your name, you know, as part of the customer journey. If they're Googling your name, they're probably in, you know, quite far down the customer journey. It could be in the considerations phase. And the mistake that I see a lot of professionals make is, you know, somebody Googles their name, they find their LinkedIn profile, and then they go and have a look at it. Potential customer has a look at it, and it looks like a resume. You know, I always ask my audience when I do these talks, I say, has anyone in the room ever bought anything because somebody's handed them a CV? You know, what's happening on LinkedIn is because it was originally created as a recruitment site, and so people would upload a version of their resume and recruiters would use it to find talent. Now there's always salespeople and marketers on there, but it wasn't actually created for that in the first instance. And so, yeah, people are necessarily setting up their profile correctly. It's really important your photograph is professional. It's the first place people's eyes will go. And, you know, be obviously industry appropriate, but try and stand out a little bit from the crowd. That's valuable as well. But yeah, like I think, you know, when somebody's searching your name on Google, it's quite important that you know where they're gonna end up, and the profile, you know, if it is a LinkedIn profile, you want to set it up in customer-centric language that portrays the value proposition that you offer. You know, if it's out of date, or, you know, it's written for, you know, for job roles or whatever have you, it's not going to do much to help you. Might even hurt your brand. And this is also ties into how you spend your time on LinkedIn. So you can be proactive or you can be reactive. And like, so most people, if they would spend 15 minutes a day on LinkedIn, they would this is what they do. They log on, they go, oh, look, I've got 20 connection requests, you know, I'll accept them. Oh no, he's not relevant. I won't accept him. I'll accept those. Oh, look, I've got a couple of messages. I'll respond to them. So when you do that, yes, you're being active on LinkedIn, but you are being reactive. The people that are sending you connection requests are not necessarily going to be the people that you want in your audience or people that you want in your target market. They could be a lot of salespeople, and there could be a lot of recruiters. So when people say to me, Nathaniel, I don't like LinkedIn, it's full of salespeople and recruiters, I know that they've been reactive. Whereas if you decide, okay, I'm going to work with people in the medical industry in Melbourne, who are in my second degree network, for example, and you're the one that's proactively sending the invitations out, making sure they're personalized. What happens is as you expand your network in that area, you become like a perceived thought leader just by the fact that you've got so many connections in their industry. So if you connected with, say, 500 people in the medical industry, 3 months down the track, you're sending in another dentist or another medical professional connection request, and they go, oh, geez, look how many people he knows in my industry. The chance of them accepting is a lot higher. And so that can be really powerful to niche on LinkedIn, which is something that's handy background knowledge, I suppose. So we're going to talk today about lead generation. Profile optimization, includes SEO. I don't know if it's as relevant for you guys, but it's very easy to get a LinkedIn profile to the first search result of Google for your name. A lot easier than a website. This is like, 1 week after optimizing a profile, this particular individual went from 0 views a day to 91 views within 7 days. So like, if you want to optimize your LinkedIn profile for search, so for example, if somebody searched for personal development coach or weight loss coach or something like that, then if you put the keyword that you want to target in these 3 areas, you'll probably rank number 1. I don't want to say it's guaranteed, but most of the time when I put them in these 3 areas, it happens. So your headline, which is the bit of text that's right near your photograph. And then you want to do the same thing with the job title in your experience section. So experience section's where you have like a history of all your jobs, but you want to do it in the job that's the current one. And then the summary is actually now called the about section, which is a chunk of text right at the top. So if anyone's going to read anything in your profile, it's going to be the about section. So that's where you want to write it in first person. This is where a lot of people make the mistake of making it seem like a CV rather than going, I work, are you frustrated with your online marketing? I help businesses that want to achieve this. These are the services we offer. If you'd like to find out more, this is how you contact me. So you're guiding people through the process. They go, oh yeah, I have that problem. I see that solution. And if you tell people why you do what you do, as you guys would know very well, they're more likely to trust you. The other thing that I think would be really valuable for you guys, and it's a bit of a side note, I just sort of talked to the guys before I hopped on here, and I think a lot of you would benefit from positioning your brand as a thought leader or industry leader. I'm sure you're thinking about this, but on LinkedIn, it's incredibly there's an incredible opportunity to connect with people in the media, like editors for newspapers, people that host podcasts. You could offer to be like a guest on TV news channels and stuff like that. Podcasts is a huge one. So you could offer, first of all, to be a guest, but if you also host a podcast or you host a web series, I do encourage that if you're not doing it. It's a great place to find and connect with guests in a business context. So that PR is extremely valuable, because if you do it for a couple of years, it doesn't take long before you're the perceived expert, and it just helps you eliminate competition altogether. So social proof is really powerful on social media, as you guys know, but on LinkedIn, like you can, who you're connected with, the fact that you're posting content and you're on podcasts and you've got recommendations on your profile, it just builds so much trust. And, as the world where it's at the moment, like it's the biggest trend online is trust and building social proof. And a lot of people just ignore it completely on their LinkedIn profile. And you'll see they've got no recommendations whatsoever. And with content, people interact, whether it's a business to business side or it's a business to consumer side, people interact with things that resonate with them on a personal level. Okay, so I mean, I'm not telling you guys anything new, but I want to hammer home these points because this is how you create content that's engaging, and this is why you guys could come onto LinkedIn and do a much better job than a lot of the business people because they're so analytical and it's so boring. No one's going to remember it because people's attention span is so short. So in February 15th to February 15th. So what was that? That's 1 year. I don't know if I think it was that the last year or the year before? It may have been the year before. So I think it's from 2019 to 2020. So I had 1.6 million views. And that's all organic. So just to show you what's possible, I've put these figures up. So this is crazy. It's all organic. I mean, I did 1,320 posts, which is a lot. But like you get really quick at it, and I'll show you a couple of ways that you can create a lot of content incredibly fast. I'm just going to check the chat real quick. Just making sure that I haven't got any questions here. Cool, the king, epic. All right, awesome. You guys heard of the mere exposure effect before, by any chance? No? Okay. So the mere exposure effect is pretty straightforward. It's a psychological phenomenon by which people tend to develop a preference for things merely because they're familiar with them. So it's like familiarity principles. So just to give you an example, if 20 years ago, for example, you'd see like 4 billboards of Coke and you didn't see any of Pepsi, you're more likely to buy Coke because they're more familiar. You've seen them, you've got more impressions of them. Whereas these days, obviously, because there's so many marketing messages being fed to us, we need them more regularly and we need more of them. So maybe you need 25 exposures to, like a brand, to trust it and just feel safer with it. People feel much safer investing in things that are familiar to them, even if they're not that fantastic, just by the fact that they recognize them. And so it's the same thing with your content. So the way I look at content marketing and social media is, how do I get 25 exposures in front of my target audience so that they are more likely to like me or trust me and want to do business with me? That's the way I look at content. Because if you think about it, if you put 20 pieces of content in front of someone and you're asking them to buy from you every single time, then you're going to build negative brand sentiment and it's going to have a negative effect. Whereas if you're finding ways to entertain them, educate them, create curiosity, then they'll just keep wanting to know more. One of the things that I love when I get asked is Nathaniel, I watch your content for 2 years. I have no idea what you do. What do you do? And I love getting that question because I've fully designed my content so that people want to know more. And so I don't explain what I do in my content most of the time. Normally they'd have to come to an event to find that out. Curiosity is extremely powerful on social media. Okay, some LinkedIn insights for you. Some stuff that maybe you wouldn't know about LinkedIn is these are the top 10 topics that people write articles about. Leadership is a huge one, which might be something that is relevant to you guys. Excuse me. The best performing post that I ever wrote was the title of it was "Who You Surround Yourself With Is Who You Become." So the type of content that I imagine that you guys would be relevant to what you do can do exceptionally well. And I think the reason it did so well is just because so many people can relate to it on an emotional level. And I use storytelling with almost every piece of content I do. The reason being is that if you tell a story to somebody, and you guys, I guess you guys, I'm telling people have done NLP here, but like the short version of it is people will remember the content. If there's no story, people tend to forget the content, and you guys would understand that through your NLP training. best time to post on LinkedIn is Wednesday at 3 p.m. It makes a big difference. It's about 30% difference. And yeah, 3 p.m. could be closer to 5 p.m. your time, because it's towards the end of the day, basically. Yeah. And you want to do it for your target audience. So think about where obviously they're located. Content's changed a lot in the last few years. The most effective form of content was articles, and then it was written form updates without any media. Now it's by far videos. Videos are going crazy. So 3 steps to going viral on LinkedIn: add value, get immediate engagement, start a conversation. So if you posted any content on LinkedIn and you haven't got much out of it, it's probably to do with one of these steps. And I would imagine that most of you would have had the adding value part down packed. I think immediate engagement is probably an area which you guys could improve upon. It's very important on LinkedIn that you get engagement on your content like as soon as possible. So within the first hour is ideal. And you kind of want to, if you're posting in the morning, you want to allow like at least 3 or 4 times throughout the day to go check on your content and reply to comments, because your comments count just as much as somebody else's. So if you can reply, join the conversation, what you're doing as well is you're training people to feel comfortable commenting on your stuff. So if somebody drops a comment on your content for the first time, it's almost like they walked up to you at a networking party and like put their hand out to shake your hand, and you haven't responded, or maybe you take a day to respond. Whereas if you respond quickly and you're sort of engaging, then they'll want to do it next time. So it's really important. Like you'll notice, like if you ever follow any of my content, you'll see the same people commenting over and over again. Monday Night Lives, there's a lot of the same people there. They're the most engaged because they've been trained basically to do that and start a conversation. So social media, when it works, creates conversation, and conversations create relationships, and relationships should lead to sales. A lot of people make the mistake of jumping from social media to sales, and it just doesn't work in my experience. All right, here's some great examples of content that does really well on LinkedIn. So when you share a win, so when I reached 10,000 subscribers on YouTube, I did this post. Now, this is something which I would never normally talk about. And I wouldn't have even thought to share 10,000 subscribers. First of all, I would have thought that it makes you sound like you're a bit of a wanker. But second of all, like I don't think it's that meaningful a number. Subscribers, don't necessarily have anything to do with business. But what I found is over the years is every time I post about something that like an achievement or like a milestone, it creates, first of all, an incredible amount of engagement, but it also creates an incredible amount of inbound leads. So I think it's something to do with people want to be involved or do business with people that you've got momentum around their business. And so a lot of people have like momentum, but they just don't like talk about all of it. Because it doesn't all have to be huge. It can be little things. It could be, you could have something every month that you talk about, which, you've achieved. It could be like 1 month per year, could be, your business birthday, it's another year in business. The next month, it could be that you, I don't know, had a record sales month, or it could be that you got a new office, or I don't know what it is, but anything that's happening in your business and you share it creates momentum, and that's very attractive to potential clients. I'll show you another one, which is probably going to be quite interesting for you guys. I'll just go through this one first. So the way you structure them is quite important. 60% of LinkedIn users are looking at the content on a mobile device. So by spacing it out in like 1 sentence paragraphs, it just makes it a lot easier for people to read. Because if it's just one chunk of text and it's like, if they lose their spot, you're just going to swipe their thumb and get on to the next thing. So always, like, it's good to start with a question, and then at the end, have a call to comment, let us know your thoughts or ask them a specific question. LinkedIn users are 20% 20 times, not 20%, 20 times more likely to share a video post. Isn't that incredible? 20 times. Now, live streams in 2020 increased by 437%. I've been using live, and they're just getting better and better and better. So if you have got LinkedIn Live, I encourage you to do like a weekly series. But if you haven't, not everyone's got it. So you have to apply on LinkedIn's website. You'll probably get it, especially if you've been doing lives on Facebook. But you'll get so much reach from it at the moment, because not everyone's got it, and because it's a new product on LinkedIn, they're pushing it out hard. And people love live content. You'll get 7 times more reactions and 24 times more comments. So, you know, what happened on Facebook, I don't know, was it 3 years ago, 4 years ago, when lives were really hot? It's happening on LinkedIn at the moment. Okay, so just keep in mind as well that 95% of people on LinkedIn and in business are doing it all wrong. 95% of businesses fail in 10 years. So if you do what everyone else is doing, it's probably one of it's one of the surest ways that you could end up in trouble. So you want to look at, you know, who's doing it successfully, and then I would be following them, engaging with their content and learning from them. But most people are making those mistakes that I touched on earlier. And I'm sure that you guys have got a lot of them down packed in terms of things like adding value. But I think like encouraging engagement early on is probably a big one. I said to Luke, maybe there's an opportunity for you guys to, like, I don't know, help support each other's content, maybe create a private group or something like that, so that, you know, when you guys are posting on LinkedIn, you can help support each other by, you know, commenting and encouraging each other. And one of the other things you could do is use hashtags in your post, or tag individuals. If there's people that were involved in whatever you're talking about, if you tag them, it'll come up as a notification for them. And so then they're more likely to hit like and comment straight away. Obviously don't like jam them in there, but yeah, it's a very powerful way to get a few likes up front. Because if you get a few, then LinkedIn like basically just show it to more people and show it to more people. Whereas if you don't get any up front, it just kind of stops the engagement right there. Going live option, or the video has to be recorded. Yeah, so you have to apply for LinkedIn Live. I can provide the link for you guys after the call if you like. I can send it through to Luke. There's no cost for LinkedIn Live. However, you do need to use a third-party platform. It's not like Facebook where you just press live. So I use Restream. It's exceptionally good. It's actually free. I think it's free for up to 3 platforms or something. So you can go live on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, all at once, and all the comments come through to the same place. It's fantastic. I'm pretty sure you can get a free version, but if not, it's a small upgrade. Restream is exceptional. What's the time here? It's good. We're doing good for time. Cool. All right. Well, these are some real secret hacks that I don't share with everyone that you guys can use. When I sort of stumbled across strategies like this, I get quite excited. But if you've got any lead magnets that you use, like I create them quite a lot, and so that's a great way to take people from your content on social media into your database. And so what most people would do is say, oh, I've created this ebook on social selling, you know, click here to get it. And so, you know, the people that see the post click on the link, go and get the ebook, but they don't get any likes or comments. So you may have seen people do this, but I always suggest getting people to comment below with a yes or whatever it is, or yes please, or ebook, in order to get a copy. And what I've noticed is it increases the perceived value. And then I private message everybody after say a couple of days, and say, oh, you know, here's the ebook you were interested in. And all I'm doing is sending them the link there. But it makes them feel like they're quite appreciated when you send them a private message. And then they go there, they fill in their details that are in your email marketing as well. But you'll find that these posts, because everyone's requesting your lead magnet, they might get 500 comments. And so you just get exposed to so many more people. So every time I, launch an ebook, I get like 500 people in my database or something like that within a day, by following this strategy. The most content marketers wouldn't tell you this kind of stuff. Like, these are the secret hacks. But I don't know. I'm stoked. Yeah. I want to talk about lead generation a little bit. I know that you'll have to be quite creative in the strategy that you use, like how you're going to target people. One consideration could be potential JV partners or like referral networks. So if there's somebody or some sort of profession that deals with the same sort of clients that you do, or is likely to have clients that would have the problems that you solve, then it's a good idea to reach out to them on LinkedIn, connect with them, and then send them a message to set an appointment. Because I'm sure if they've got clients that they could refer to you, that you would potentially have come across clients that you could refer to them. So when you reach out to them, always put the value for them front of mind. So if you can refer them clients down the track, you say, I'm looking for an accountant that I can potentially refer my clients to when I need to. Would you be interested in having a conversation? This particular chap, Dean, got 2 meetings every single day after 30 days of lead generation, and we were sending out 200 messages a month for Dean. So that's about a 10% conversion rate to appointment. He's doing a lot more phone calls than that. So just to give you a comparison, like cold calling is effective 1% of the time on average these days, which means that you can basically get a conversation or have a phone call with somebody 1% of 1 out of 100 calls that you make. So I think if you do it in the right way, that adds value. When people go into their LinkedIn to read their messages, they're more likely to be receptive and respond. But if you look in your own LinkedIn inbox, you'll see like a lot of rubbish. Like most people just send these sales letters. They're absolutely terrible. The key to it is writing a message that gets answered is you don't assume a need. You don't assume that somebody has the problem that you solve. Like if I do SEO and I know for a fact that I can get your website to the top of Google, for me to say, we should have a chat because I can get your website to number 1 on Google. Here are all my, awards and referral recommendations from people. It'd be stupid because I don't know if you want to get to the top of Google. I don't know if you want more clients. I don't know if you want to grow your business. I have to ask you those questions first to see if you've got the problem that I solve. And so if I reached out to somebody and I was an SEO company, I might say, I've noticed that you're in this industry. I've had experience there. I'm interested in finding out more about what you're working on, more about your business objectives for this year to see if there's an opportunity for us to work together or not. And that way, and you suggest getting on a telephone call, you're just asking them questions to move them through the sales process. I mean, this is no different than the actual offline sales process. But I think when they're behind a keyboard, all of a sudden they think they have to give all this information to people when they haven't asked for it. If you're contacting somebody on LinkedIn and you haven't told them anything about what you do, all they're going to do is click on your name and read your profile. But the fact that they clicked on your name and you didn't push the information on them means they're much more likely to actually read it. Okay, so this is actually his figures. So we would not suggest using emails. So emails are basically paid messages to people that are not in your network. Whereas I suggest connecting with people first. So when they accept your connection request, then you can message them. It doesn't cost you anything. But the fact that they've accepted your invitation means that they've given, their implied consent that you can contact them down the track. So like with this particular example, we sent 241 requests. 183 said, yeah, I'll connect. So 75%. We sent them all a follow-up message to generate a phone call, and we got 75 leads, which is a 41% conversion rate. So it's really good numbers, that particular one, targeting facility managers. So you guys would have come across a content calendar before. I think it's really important to plan your content. One of the big mistakes I see a lot of people doing is they think of the posts as they create them. And so it's very inefficient, and it's also not keeping in mind what your audience might want to see, and it's very difficult to measure what's working and what's not if you're just doing it on a whim. Hands up if you've heard of Gary Vaynerchuk by any chance. Gary V? Oh, almost all of you. Okay, so this is from Gary V's content model, I think he's called it. The Gary V content strategy. So basically what he is explaining is how we can create 100 pieces of content from doing like a keynote or a podcast by getting his team to like chop it up into micro content, writing blogs, images, and it's an upside down pyramid like this, where you have your pillar content at the top, which you document and then creates, and he's doing this like en masse, like 100 posts a day. So I've looked at it and gone, well, obviously there's something that we can learn from this guy. We don't need to create 100 pieces of content a day, but we could use the same system where, you sit down and you do an hour's worth of content, where maybe through an interview is an exceptional way to do it, because every question creates one piece of content, right? Like every answer is a piece of content. This is the way I do it with clients. But then with 1 hour, you can create 50 videos, and then that can create 50 images. So you're just so much more efficient with your time. And then what you do is you post all that content over, say, 2 or 3 months, and then you look at all the statistics and you just work out, okay, these are the topics that my audience is interested in, because what my audience is interested in is going to be different to what your audience is interested in. And so you have to, like, that's the way to find out what content's going to work. I've worked with like, banks and fast moving consumer goods, huge global retail brands. And when I ask them how they come up with their content pillars, they tell me some variation of sitting in a room with a whiteboard with their marketing team, and like there's all these people there, but they've got no insight from their audience whatsoever as to what they want to see and what adds value to them. So the reason I think Gary V's so successful at social media is because he's getting way more feedback than anyone else. Like, he's getting feedback so quickly that he's able to innovate and change his content to suit the audience. As I think that he talks a lot about parenting, relationships, not caring what other people think, all that stuff. When he first started speaking and first started creating content, like, he didn't talk about any of that. That's all come from the audience. That's all come from what they're struggling with and what they need help with. And so this is just an example of me interviewing a client and chopping it up into multiple videos. I encourage you all to create content like this. It's way more effective. And on LinkedIn, like on Facebook and Instagram, it's like totally cool to do the like phone thing. But on LinkedIn, like if you are targeting like C-suite executives or businesses, or your competitors are creating professional videos, like you just want to think about your brand. Like, do you want to come across as more professional than those guys? And a lot of businesses will have to invest in like professional production, because it does make a big difference to the perceived quality of the brand. It's not essential for every business, but you just got to think about your brand, who's your customer going to spend money with if they don't spend money with you, and what sort of things are they doing? I'm just looking through the comments here. Do you have a LinkedIn account, paid one or free? Okay. So I have a paid account, but I think you can do everything we've been talking about with a free account. So what I normally suggest is get a free one, and then once you start getting some results, then you'll see the benefits in upgrading. But people think that if you just upgrade, all of a sudden LinkedIn's going to work for you, and it doesn't really work like that. Like, it just has a couple of extra features. Kerwin Ray touched on this too. Yeah, I've learned a lot from Kerwin Ray in regards to social media. Nathaniel, can you go through what you usually say to someone you want to do a JV with, please? Sorry. So in terms of a JV, like a partnership arrangement, I assume you're thinking of. So I would say, so for example, when I started in online marketing in Melbourne, I thought, a business coach would be a perfect partner, because a business coach would have lots of businesses that need online marketing. And so I thought, I want the best business coach. I want the business coach that's getting clients all the time. It's got the best clients. So I thought the best business coach will be at the top of Google. So I Googled business coach Melbourne. At the top was a guy called David Guest. So I called him up and I said, well, let's say I messaged him on LinkedIn. This is what I would say. So I'd say, hi, David. I've noticed that, you're a business coach in Melbourne. I'm seeking a business coach that I can potentially refer my clients to. Are you interested in having a conversation? So I would definitely word it in the way that, I can refer clients to him, rather than, because what most people would do is they'd instinctively go, I'm looking for a business coach who has clients they can refer to me. And they might say vice versa, but it's a very important shift. It makes a big difference. And David was obviously very versed in partnerships, because he sent me back a form and he said, please complete this. And it's like asking all this information about, who I work with and my experience. And then the last 3 questions on the form was, could you provide 3 clients that we can call as a reference and their phone numbers? And I was like, oh, that's clever. So I asked 3 of my clients, put their numbers down. And then I spoke to them afterwards and I said, did David call you? And they said, yeah. And I said, what did he ask you? And apparently he basically just said, hey, have you got a business coach? Would you be interested in learning more? And so I was quite impressed with him from that perspective. And we did a lot of work together for about 4 or 5 years. He consistently sent me referrals, and I sent him a lot of referrals as well. I really believe in the power of JV partnerships, but always when you're approaching them, you got to remember, like, people on social media, especially if they don't know you, they're just trying to work out whether or not you're there to try and get something from them, or that you're trying to actually genuinely help. And so you've got to be very careful with the wording that you use when you don't know somebody yet, to make sure that you don't set off any alarm bells. You might even write to them and you do everything right, exactly like I've said, and you won't, you don't assume a need, and they still think you're a salesperson, and they'll say, what are you trying to sell me? And then, if sometimes when I coach people, they're not used to like this kind of approach, they'll answer that question and they'll say, oh, I wasn't trying to say anything. I was just trying to do this, and this, and it just make it look even worse. Whereas, if you think about it, if you genuinely were not interested in selling to anyone that doesn't have the problem you solve, then you would just completely ignore that question. You don't want to sell to people that don't have the problem that you solve. There's too many people that need what you do. So you want to just find out who those people that are relevant are quickly, so you don't waste time, talking to them, and you move on to the people that you can serve. So the 3-step process that I've generated $400 million worth of sales for my clients using is this: find, connect, and engage. Very straightforward. But how targeted you are with the find step, what your conversion rate is with the connect step, and then obviously what your conversion rate is when you send a follow-up message. Those 3 areas, what I love about it is you can, if you measure it, most people don't measure it, but if you measure it, you can identify where the problem areas are. Like, if it's, you might be finding lots of people, connecting with a lot of people, but not engaging. Whereas if you don't measure it, you might think the problem is that you're not finding the right people. You might think the connection request's bad. But if you can measure it, you can isolate the problem area, so it doesn't take long to optimize a campaign. So talk to the JV about what the value. Yes, that's right, Christina. Page 1. So is this an article or is it a post? That's why good to use metaphor. Yeah. I'm vibing with this fully. Hey, Benjamin, my man. Sorry, all right. I just want to make sure I've answered any questions that have come through. Okay, so this guy did content marketing with us. He never posted on LinkedIn before, had 200 connections, and which is awesome because he was targeting CEOs of ASX listed mining companies and engineering companies and these, massive CEOs of these big companies. And we generated 277 leads in 4 or 5 months, and he was having conversations all the time. But what was even more interesting to me, because I generally worked with people that had more connections than that to start with, but because he had such few connections to start with, when his network was up to 1,000, it was like, when you look at his newsfeed, it's just all these high-profile CEOs of these mining companies. Like, it was just like, wow, all these high-profile guys. There was no salespeople and recruiters mixed in there like most people have. And so it's like he could just go in there for 10 minutes, like and comment on a few of these guys' posts, and it releases dopamine in their brain. So they like him, trust him. When he calls them, they're happy to hear from him. The amount of impact that he would have had just using LinkedIn for 15 minutes a day, because of how targeted his network was, is absolutely incredible. These guys generated 100 leads and doubled their sales revenue in 30 days. I mean, this was early on when I just started. We were pretty gung-ho back then, and there wasn't anyone else generating leads on LinkedIn at all. So we had a bit of fun. This is an example of someone in B2C. So Maureen sells Australian property to people that live in Singapore. And she's like, oh, it's a shame, it won't work for B2C because I target individuals. And I said, well, maybe there's a strategy. So why don't we target people that are a CEO, because their CEOs will have high incomes, that live in Singapore, but they went to university at UWA or Monash, or they went to university in Australia. So they've got some sort of tie here, but they're living in Singapore. And then within 2 weeks, she had 40 people come along to her property seminar, all CEOs that went to uni in Australia, they're living in Singapore. And she followed that strategy, did a seminar every single month in Singapore, targeting these people. Whereas before, like, she was just literally running an ad in the newspaper and like getting a few people to rock up. So it completely transformed her business. Cool. I'm going to turn my screen share off now. I'm going to bring the chat over. 1:20. Yes, we've got 10 more minutes. I'm killing it time-wise. So, guys, any questions? I'm just having a look through the chat here. Would you say that the content I'm making would be for people to do JVs with towards addictions? I think it'd still be for the customer, to be honest. Like JV partnerships, they're going to want to see that you can help their clients. That's going to be the most important thing to them. I found that the people that are good at what they do are more concerned about the value that you can provide to their clients. They want to refer to somebody that they know is good, rather than referral commissions. And like, I've never ever been approached by a company that's offered me referral commissions that has turned out to be a valuable partner. I think it's just because of the mindset of going into it. They feel like they have to give money because there's not enough value in what they do, probably, or something like that. But the people that have never asked for money have always sent me loads of referrals. They've always looked after my clients, and I've found that that's always a good sign. Clients outside of my need, what would you offer them instead? They're either going to be interested in, referral partners are either going to be interested in providing a better service to their clients, so like a wider range of services to their clients, or they'll be interested in, if you come across somebody that needs their service, that you can refer back to them. So what I say is, like the business coach, for example, I say, I'm looking for a business coach that I can refer clients to. I don't know if I will be able to refer a client, but when it comes up, I'd like to be able to recommend somebody. And so you always say, like, you're looking for one, and then you just say, one of the criteria that I have is I'm also looking for somebody that could potentially refer me clients. Would you be open to doing that? And normally then they say yes, and then they actually try to get you a client just so that they can be your referral partner. It works exceptionally well. And imagine if you do that to 10 or 20 of the best coaches, for example, within a week. It's actually a very quick way to get runs on the board if you don't want to spend any money on marketing. When I started my business, I focused on referrals partners a lot. And referrals from clients would be a good one for you as well. Like, I mean, you could be asking for referrals from clients all the time. a great way to generate leads is doing a podcast. Like I wanted to target chief marketing officers because they're like heads of marketing departments for global brands. Like I wasn't getting clients on that scale. And so I decided to start the CMO podcast, the Chief Marketing Officer podcast. A lot of these executives that don't get asked to be on a podcast that often made it look really professional when I approached them and stuff. And so all of a sudden I had like the CMO of Qantas, I had the CMO of Ericsson, Motorola, who else? SAP came on, and all of them, I interviewed all of them, didn't necessarily have a existing audience on the podcast platforms. Obviously I got a bit of a social clout, but and I didn't tell them anything about what I did. And at the end, all of them, Ericsson, Qantas, SAP, they all said, so Nathaniel, before you go, tell me more about what you do. Is that something that could help us? A most incredible form of lead generation. You know, I mean, obviously it takes a bit of work, but if you know who you want to go after, making a podcast, it makes them very receptive. They'll like and trust you before, and then they'll ask you, what you do. There's lots of ways to go about it. I think LinkedIn's a great tool to find these people, and then you've just got to come up with a system to engage them. And test and measure the results. But in my experience, I mean, without LinkedIn, I never would have, achieved the success that I have for myself and my clients. Very passionate about it. And it may not work in a couple of years as effectively, maybe something else. Maybe we may move on to a different social platform. But at the moment, there's a lot of attention there. It's growing. The statistics are showing that people are spending a lot more time on the platform. So I think that's where, there's a big opportunity there, especially for business owners that don't want to spend a fortune on ads like Google ads and things like that. Extremely targeted. And it's because it's professional as well. Like you don't actually get that many fake profiles and stuff like that like you get on other platforms. So yeah. I thought you said you were dating a relationship coach. I thought that'd be interesting. I'm a dating relationship coach. What would be your way of connecting with your ideal client on LinkedIn? Help single career-oriented women heal. Yeah, okay. I think you'd have to do it through content. I'd give it a bit more thought. But like I know a guy that's a dating coach in inverted commas. I met at Tony Robbins. He's a bit of I don't know. Anyway, I'm not saying anything, but like he's big on YouTube, right? But if he posted on LinkedIn, he'd crush it because no one else is posting about that stuff on LinkedIn. And so he'd stand out. Everyone's got relationships. A lot of more people are having dramas in them these days. So the content, it would be interesting, engaging, and he would find a tribe for sure on LinkedIn. Talking about relationships and stuff like that. I think it would do exceptionally well, actually. There's no one doing it. It's entertaining. It would cut through a lot of the noise. Like people are watching all these boring bloody business stuff all day, and then they see something about how to, get over your ex. I think it'd be quite interesting. So it could do, like if they're, so the question was, would my content show up in their feed if we're not connected? So like if they're following like topics related to the content or hashtags related to the content or their networks engaged on the content, then they could do. But I think that's the cool thing about LinkedIn is let's take Instagram for example. Like if I want certain people to follow me on Instagram, I can't like go to their profile and say, hey, come follow me. Like I can't invite them. Whereas on LinkedIn, you can send them an invitation to connect. It's very different sending somebody an invitation than following them home from work. So you can choose who's in your network. So there's no reason why growing your network, just sending those invitations 10 a day, you're slowly bringing these people into your network. And on the basis that you add value and you don't try to sell to them and piss them off, you're going to build credibility with them. So, yeah, I think that's the only platform that I can think of, except for a Facebook personal profile, but it's just not as appropriate to send people friend requests on Facebook that you don't know. Whereas on LinkedIn, like if you've got mutual connections and there's some relevance there, it's totally fine. Not everyone will accept, but at least half should accept if you've got a decent profile. Have you found from your experience with clients that a lot of high-level CEOs and companies looking for peak performance, confidence boosting, and yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. The thing is, like, they just want to find somebody that they trust. That's the main thing. So, like, they're not going to have a conversation with you unless they know somebody that you coach or they've seen some of your content. So, like, if you put that content in front of them, they'll be so motivated to talk to you. You know, I don't have really very often. I don't very often have potential clients that are looking at like 2 or 3 LinkedIn providers. Normally, if they're watching my content, when they inquire, it's like I'm the guy. You know, like they've been learning from me. They trust me. Price is less important to them. I do remember what it was like when I didn't have any of that stuff, didn't have a personal brand, and it was like 10 proposals to get 1 sale. Like, I was always creating proposals. I'd very rarely go through creating a proposal and not to get a deal now. That's just like thought leadership, credibility, adding value to people. Like, oh shit, like if they actually listen to it, the content, and then they get some value, they're like shocked, because most people, they like lure them in with the thumbnails and all the hacks that you're going to get overnight, and then they boom, try to close them, try to sell to them, and then they ruin it. So they always have to get new attention, because they don't build trust. They get the attention, break the trust, get the attention. So they're always getting new. Like, the way you become a thought leader with 35,000 followers or 100,000 followers is when you get the attention, you build the trust, and so you keep it, and then you get more attention, build the trust, and so you don't have to keep finding new people all the time because you're adding value. It is a lot of work, don't get me wrong, but that's why there's not many people doing it. Is there a limit a day to how many requests? Good question. You're speaking to a man that's been banned on LinkedIn 7 times for sending connection requests. So yes, there is a limit. So you start off small, like do less than 50, and then you can like kind of grow it up, build it up to say 100 maximum. But I'm not doing that sort of thing these days, because when you get to 30,000 connections, you can't add any more. So if I want to keep inviting people into my network that are like, people that I meet and stuff like that, I have to actually start removing connections quite often. Marshall, zip it. He's only ever makes noise when I'm on Zoom calls. Okay, let's see. How do you prepare and propose yourself to a JV company and your services do you create? So yeah, I do have a like a fact sheet about the services that I offer. It's 2 or 3 pages. And what else is there? I get them to complete an application form normally. Yeah, I mean, like when you're doing content and stuff, like because people know you're good at what you do, they just refer your clients anyway. But yeah, I've definitely had application forms when I started, a fact sheet for partners. Yeah, I mean, if you're doing like events or webinars or anything like that, that's a great way to funnel people into those things. Like if you're running an event and you got a partner, you give them give them some value, give them 5 tickets or give them this or give them that they can offer their clients. Do joint webinars. Like if you have a partner that you've got to know, you don't want to do everything at once, but like David Guest, for example, that business coach, like he referred me 1 client. 2 months later, I referred him a client. Then we're like, okay, why don't we do a webinar together? And then we were doing events together. And then I was actually got to a point with that relationship that I insisted that when somebody became a client that they spoke to David, because I said, there's no point me generating you leads if you don't know how to close them. You need to have a session with a sales coach. He'll do it for free for 30 minutes. But at the end of the 30 minutes, he asked them to become a client. If they do become a client with him, they stay a client of mine longer because they're actually closing the deals. Because he's a sales coach. I need to be able to, like, if I could generate thousands of leads for business, but if the sales don't have a sales process, they won't close them. And if it's a sales manager or sales employee, they'll just say to the boss, the leads are rubbish. They don't want to, get in trouble. So it's very important. And so you'll find that, like, if you provide your clients a better service by referring accountants or LinkedIn marketers or whatever that are good at what they do, they'll actually stay with you longer, because you've provided so much value to them just from that introduction. Videographers are another one, like video production companies. I work with a lot of them because a lot of my clients don't know where to find good, cheap videographers. I know all of them. Photographers, another one, venue hire, all that sort of stuff, you know, where I've like actually had to try all these different expensive crap providers before I found the good ones. But there's a lot of value in that. Clients mention it quite a lot. Well, I have a dog that does when I do my lives on Facebook. Yeah. What am I supposed to do? I put him out in the balcony. He starts barking at people walking their dogs. This before that the content should be primarily videos. Yeah, so the videos are just do the best. That's what. So 2 minutes, even like a minute and a half, 3 minutes. I mean, at the end of the day, like the average person watching a video on social media. So the average video on social media, after 10 seconds, 50% of the people that press play at the start are gone. After 10 seconds, that's an average, 50%. After a minute, it's 80%. So you just got to ask yourself, like, okay, well, is the first 10 seconds, you know, is there some value there so that people are going to keep watching? And you got to try and make it short enough that people are going to watch it. Like, so like when somebody records a video normally, and I do this in the interviews, when I ask them a question, I'll say, hey, why'd you start your business? And they say, well, I was at this job and then I met this guy and then I did this and then I did this. And then I felt, and then by like, after they've talked for a minute, they'll say something like, I just decided enough was enough. And like, this was the day. And so I just cut all that first minute out and go straight to like where they're talking about something that's like they're passionate about. And that's how you create wicked content. I do the same thing with myself when I'm talking. Like if I'm doing a talk, like I would cut this, like I would start this now where I'm being like more engaging. And that would be the content that I'd post. 40 seconds. You can make jump cuts. Like if you want to make yourself more engaging, use B-roll. Like depends how much time you want to put into it. But the more like the faster you deliver the value, the more entertaining it is with images and B-roll and all that sort of stuff, the more likely people are going to watch the whole thing. But yeah, I think batch creating content's a big one, creating like 50 pieces of content at once. And then you use the user-generated feedback to create more content. And then you can literally cycle the same content again. There's no reason you can't post a video that you posted 3 months ago again. Like people are consuming so much content, they don't remember it all. You need to be repeating the message over and over again. It's really important. What about as well, JV, you asked to present to the audience to coach mums? Absolutely. So yeah, yeah, it's perfect. But the way I would word it is you offer to present, because you got to remember, like you're the one with the value. And so, you know, for some of my partners, if you think it would be valuable to your audience, I do provide, you know, I could do like a 30-minute education session on this. And so like all of a sudden they've got something they can offer their audience or their clients, which adds value that surprises them, which they don't actually have to deliver. That's a great way for you to get your foot in the door. And even with the referrals, like when they, if they're not sure how to start the conversation to give you referrals, you could offer to give them, like you say, look, I can create a voucher for you that's got your business name on it. And it allows them to have a 30-minute call with me, and I'll tell them what their limiting belief is, or whatever it may be. Yeah, I used to do complimentary reviews of their LinkedIn profile. It worked exceptionally well. We've got Callum back here. Last question. How would you recommend I propose my products and services to women's shelters? Yeah, okay. So with the decision makers for those particular types of organizations will be on LinkedIn. I've pitched a few things to similar sorts of companies when I wanted to do some charity stuff, and I think you just got to take the conversation offline. So I would message them and say, you know, I've noticed this is your role. I wanted to speak to somebody in your organization that does this. Are you the best person to speak with? If so, let me know your phone number and I'll give you a call. So you don't necessarily tell them what it's about, because you want to create curiosity, and you just want to tell them that it's, you know, easier to explain it on the phone. And so if they come back and they say, oh, can you tell me a bit about what it's about? Then you just say, I've got an idea I want to run past you. What's the best number to call you on? But if you have that go back and forth on LinkedIn messages, you lose control of the whole thing. And the chance of them misunderstanding that you're trying to sell them something is very high.
All right, we appreciate that. I think they'd speak to you all night, mate. Mate, you're a hit. You have provided so much value. You have got such a depth of knowledge in business and using LinkedIn. I'm super impressed, and I know that they are as well. Let's give them a look. I've watched you, and you have grown. And I just know that I didn't know you work with Apple and these other big, the biggest organizations in the world. So, look, thank you for sharing all this. I don't think this will be the last time that I will invite you or ask you. Definitely. But, you know, thanks for providing all that. Like, these guys are just, it's opened their mind up to what's possible. I think that they're really seeing a bigger picture of what they can do with their business and thinking bigger about what they can do on LinkedIn, you know?
That's awesome. Thanks so much for having me. Appreciate it.
No worries, brother. Yeah, and for, you know, if they want to work with you, like services that you provide, because it looks like you got so much good stuff, you know, anything you want to mention on that about what you have?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I run a couple of things. Boot camp is where I train people in 30 days how to transform their content marketing on LinkedIn. And then I do the behind the brand, which is basically that interview process where I chop up the content for them. Those are the two services that I think are probably going to be of most interest to you guys. But just reach out to me on LinkedIn. Let's connect. You know, follow my content. You know, if it's not right now, maybe down the track. But let's keep in touch.